Next up, we have the women's basketball senior class with Hannah Shervin, Chloe Lamb, Liv Korniebel, and Reagan Zenke.
Chloe, we'll start with you. This group has been a big part of elevating the standards of the women's basketball program here during your time, and you guys have raised your expectations, continued to do that. With that comes sometimes some outside pressure and some noise about expectations and things like that. How do you temper that so that it is pushing towards your goals and not becoming something that adds too much pressure internally for your group?
That's a really good question, John. Way to start the day off. I think our group as a whole, our personal expectations and our expectations for ourselves are higher, if not matching, the outside noise that we see. So, we expect that we want to do great things. People want to see us do great things. You try to block it out as much as you can and just, work with your team day by day. That's what you're focusing on. But yeah, I would say the internal pressures and the expectations, the standards, as you said, that we've set for ourselves exceed that. So.
Liv, for you, I know you put in a lot of work into your game, and it showed a lot last year and really became a big part of the team as a starter and a big role. How have you continued to elevate your game to take it to another level this year?
I think just finding ways to be more creative offensively and defensively. I think we're all, like Chloe said, very high achievers on the court and off the court in school and hobbies and whatever we're doing. So I think that just transcends over to basketball very easily.
Hey, I want to hear from just generally about, obviously you had a decision before you about whether to come back and take this extra so-called COVID year. Did you talk to each other? Was it more of an individual decision? How did you arrive at sitting here today?
I don't think there was ever a group conversation. It was a decision for each of us to make. We each had different factors to play into it, but at the end of the day, to play for a program that does have success and does support you in bettering you was an easy decision.
And what do you think, with the time that you've been able to spend with this team so far, obviously there are a lot of returning players that are coming back, how would you sort of compare the identity of this group compared to a season ago?
Each team is different, but I think having most of us come back helps make it stronger, if anything.
Now, are there any challenges to having so many of the same faces in terms of scoring split and, just how you go about, the rest of the season, or is the familiarity going to be something that helps you over the rest of the season?
I think last year we, might have kind of been labeled as a fairly young team with not as much experience. And so with those young players returning, we hope that experience is only going to be good for them and for us as well. And I think that has shown as we've gone on. We have 3 freshmen coming in, and they're picking up things and running with it. But I think that group that we had last year, our young kids, as you might say, the experiences that they had last year and getting to the tournament is only going to be helpful.
And Liv, who's really stood out to you as, of those 3 freshmen, some of those younger players, who's really stood out as someone that's really excelled in practice so far this fall?
I think we have a great group of freshmen. Coach P always and her staff is always looking for groups that, can build chemistry together and that can come in and click really well. Grace Larkins is someone who isn't afraid to shoot the ball or to score as a freshman, and I think that's something that we don't have to push her to do as much as you would think for other freshmen. So she should give us a good help, very scrappy, plays hard, and just cares through her play.
And Chloe, the freshman class last year, played a lot of minutes. Maddie was starter most of the year. What has their progression been like? What is the growth from that group through your eyes?
I think just the confidence and being more comfortable. They know kind of how things go now, and having played, as a group collectively for a year, having that year under their belt, you can just see that they're more comfortable making plays, kind of being more aggressive too, finding their way there as well.
You talk about the expectations, like they were talking about before. What more is there for you guys to accomplish? I mean, you've done about everything there is to do, but I suppose take that next step in the tournament.
I mean, we haven't won a national championship yet. So no, there's always something that you can improve upon. We as a team, individually, we're nowhere near perfect. So our coaches are always pushing us in a way there, finding little ways, tangibly, intangibly, things that we can improve on. There's always something.
Reagan, what have you seen out of this program in your time? Just the continued development as it tries to continue to raise the bar and go to that next level.
The biggest thing I've noticed in this program is just how much everybody in the program cares for each other and cares about everybody else's development. I mean, Chloe and Liv are on the sidelines, and Hannah as well, like helping the younger kids, helping them with the little things, those little cues that can help their game. So I think the biggest takeaway that I take from this program is just how much the staff and even the players care about each other.
How much has that helped you individually continue to improve your game?
A lot. I mean, I've learned so much from the staff here, Chloe, Liv, and Hannah, how to lead, not just in basketball and skills, but, outside work ethic and also how to act outside of the court in just different situations. So it's been really helpful and helped me grow as a person.
Hannah, it seems like every year you guys' non-conference schedule continues to get tougher and tougher. Just looking at the slate this year, I mean, you got number 1 South Carolina among others. Just thoughts on, this year's non-conference slate?
I think at this point we kind of almost expect that from our coaching staff. All off-season they work to find us these games, and it can't be easy, especially to try to get some of these big teams to come to Vermillion. So I think we're excited and very grateful to have such a tough non-conference schedule.
All right, and then Liv, let me just adjust this here quick. How much different was this off season and just practices here compared to a year ago when there was a lot of uncertainty, where this year everything's kind of a little
Right. It was nice to be back kind of at our normal time in June. And I think that probably helped the freshmen too a lot. I know our sophomore class coming into that kind of COVID scenario, coming in late, kind of almost feeling behind, can I think put on a lot more pressure. So I'm glad for our freshmen and our younger kids that they, have more time to develop confidence and feel comfortable, because we're going to need them.
Chloe, I want to ask you a little bit about the other side of what Reagan was talking about with the phrase coach on the floor gets tossed around a lot. It's a little cliche, but it gets tossed around a lot in your case. How would you describe how you've learned, what have you learned over the last couple of years in terms of mentoring these players, and how would you describe sort of your role in developing this team?
Yeah, something that I guess we've kind of prioritized and put an emphasis on is, how you approach people, right? So you and John are going to have different ways that you receive criticism, that you receive praise. And I think over the last year, for sure, that has definitely been something that I have grown in, is how I approach people, and how, I need to know how my teammates are going to receive what I have to say. So sometimes my approach has to be different. And again, that goes back to our coaching staff, teaching me that, telling me that that's how things need to be done or should be done. But a lot of that has come from them, kind of leading me in the right direction. I've got, the reason that people think I could be a good mentor is because I have a lot of really good mentors. So props to them for that.
Coach puts away. The floor is yours.
Okay, I have to try to be quick because we have practice today, so we got to keep moving. And good luck making that into a 30-second soundbite. So challenge accepted. I can't wait to see that. That'll be fun. But wanted to say thank you first and foremost for coming out, for your support of our program. You know, certainly have appreciated what you've done not only for women's basketball but for all of our athletic department programs here. And last year, through the pandemic, I know certainly your coverage was a lot more important to our fans than it ever had been before. So thank you for doing that for us. We have some super experience this year going into the year with the return of all of our veteran young ladies. With that, so do many teams across the country. So we have this veteran crew, and we also have an incredibly challenging non-conference schedule. So you put those two together and you try to figure out, well, what does that mean and what does that look like? And for us, it comes down to two things really for us. One is we really want to focus on who we need to be fundamentally to be our very best, to give us an edge competitively, but to stick to doing what we do. So that doesn't change. The second thing that is different for us is that because we have these veterans who've been through the fundamentals and who've been through the wears of a season, and then we have this really tough schedule, we also need to be prepared for an awful lot that we can see early in the season with the different styles of play, different levels of competition. And so with that, we build upon those fundamentals and we continue to move forward and try to tweak some things and add some things. Now, for our veterans who've been around, this isn't atypical. Last year it was a lot more challenging because we had less time to prepare, but this is what we do in a normal season. The challenging part is for our three true freshmen this year in Grace Larkins, Cassidy Carson, and Carly Duffney. It's an awful lot for them. So we tried to forewarn them. There's going to be about a 2-week period of practices where everything seems to spin out of control. It happens really fast and we're right in the middle of that. Thanks to our countdown on our website, we have 13 days, 6 hours, and about, well, after Todd's speech, about 15 minutes left now before our game tips off. We were at 45 minutes, but that was well done. So we have about 13 days left before we play. And what that means for our kids is now we need to try to condense all of it, put it together, work on the fundamentals, look at the new wrinkles, add all these pieces together so that we're prepared. So then you look at our non-conference, and we're playing teams this year from the Big 12, from the SEC, from the Big 10, from the ACC, from the Missouri Valley, the Big East, and also from the American Conference. And so what does that mean? It means we're going to be exposed to a lot of different styles of play. We're going to we have an opportunity to grow through those challenges. We're going to have an opportunity to know what we have to do to get better at being who we are. And at the same time, we believe that it's going to prepare us for the very competitive Summit League again. So we're looking forward to that. As a program, we've always had a mindset of being a defensive-oriented program, and that doesn't change. We actually, as a staff, feel that this crew has a chance to be really pretty good defensively. Now, again, we're going to be very challenged with the schedule that we have, so some of that is we're going to have to do things a little bit differently than maybe we have in the past, but we feel like they can be pretty good on the defensive end of things by the time the season wears on. At the same time, we feel like we can be more versatile than we were potentially last year, and that's something that our program has continued, to work on, and that's exciting for us. You heard from our seniors, our 3 super seniors in Chloe, Liv, and Hannah, and our senior in Reagan. And when you listen to them talk, you understand that they've got something special to them. They've got an energy level to them. They articulate themselves at a very high level. They're confident, but they're also a group that's highly competitive. They want to continue to be challenged. All of that makes for something that's really special. Last year's crew was a team that showed great resilience in going through what we went through last year with all the changes and the not knowing from a day-to-day basis what was going to transpire. And what we're really proud of with that team is that they found a way to make the obstacle the way. They found a way to take that obstacle and change it into an opportunity for them to continue to grow and get better. And what they appreciate doing, what they're really good at doing, I should say, is they're really good at doing it with a smile on their face. This year's crew is no different from that. But what I would say about this year's crew is that they have a little bit of extra spunk to them. And when you're around them, you're going to feel that, you're going to see that. And so it's certainly a very special group. But with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. Because we do have practice today.
Don, you talked about
Yep.
those super seniors and the girls that we just heard from a little bit ago. What have you seen out of those girls specifically that has continued to develop not only their basketball skills, but their leadership, which is critical to success on the floor?
Well, what I think they've done a great job of this year, which is a little bit new, it's an add-on bonus, is that in the past, they would take it and they would do it. You know, they were the doers. We always say the reward for doing a job really well is that you get to do more work. So they did work really well, so they got more work to do. So they were always the ones leading and instructing. And what they've really learned to do now is also take that and give some of those leadership responsibilities to some of their other teammates and let them take that. For example, Reagan. Reagan is doing a tremendous job of really filling a lot of the voids that can continue to get better. And so they've given Reagan some more of those leadership responsibilities, which then frees them up to then go focus on themselves a little bit more too. And that's a lot of fun at the same time.
You know, I asked Chloe this, and same thing for you. This team has won a lot. It's been a very successful women's basketball program. How do you temper expectations with a challenging non-conference schedule so that it's pushing your team to its goals, but not becoming too much pressure internally that it leads to on-court mistakes?
Right, that's a great question. And I think that's exactly where our team expectations come from. And what's expectation number one? Be your best. And how do we work on being our best? By, on the basketball court, working on the fundamental skills that go into it. So we focus on our best effort and what that looks like. And then we look at being thankful. We are thankful for the opportunity to play in the Sanford Coyote Sports Center. We're thankful to have media coverage. We're thankful to play the teams that we're playing. We're thankful that we have an opportunity to go to the U.S. Virgin Islands and all our parents and fans and everyone else can have a great time while we're preparing for games. They're going to be at the beach. We're going to be in our hotel. We're going to be doing what we have to do. We will have some fun too because that's what we do, but we're thankful for those opportunities. And then the third expectation is to enjoy the precious present, to really be in the here and now. And that's where I think this team has a little extra special version of that. You know, we did lose a lot in graduating Claudia and Monica with their servant leadership mentality from Monica's standpoint and from Claudia's energy level standpoint. And this crew this year has a different way of having their own identity when it comes to enjoying the precious present.
Maddie Kroll obviously stepped right into a starting role for you. How much has she progressed just from playing a lot last year and this offseason coming into a second year?
Well, not only has she progressed in terms of understanding the length of the season and the challenge of a season and how she needs to take care of herself physically, mentally, the recovery part of it is really big. And I think that's something that freshmen really don't understand, is how long the season is, how hard it is, and how you really need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, whether that's extra foam rolling, recovery boots, extra rest, eating the right foods, all of those things go into it. And I really believe all of our freshmen have had a chance now to work with our strength and conditioning coach, Caleb Heim, who's done a tremendous job of training that aspect. On top of it, Maddie is, from a skill level, has gotten stronger. She's gotten better. She understands when to penetrate, when to shoot it, when to pull up. Her pull-up game's gotten a lot stronger. Her mid-range game has gotten a lot stronger. Her understanding of attacking and where to look at different times. And so she is, and what I think is the next part is that she's someone who's accepted that challenge of, okay, now we don't have Claudia's energy on the court. We don't have her rah-rahness. So now she's somebody that, Maddie's someone that can take that and can help us with that side of it, that leadership part of it too.
And obviously you have Hannah starting there for you down low, but you have Aspen as well, another, she's 6'4". How do you kind of, is she going to get a lot more minutes in the rotation this year to kind of give Hannah some breaks? And then when she's out there, what does she provide you?
Right, and I think what Aspen really provided for us last year, which is something that doesn't make headlines, is that she is a major reason why Hannah continued to improve, because we had Aspen in practice on a daily basis, and that really helped our entire team, but certainly helped Hannah. From that standpoint, I think we have an opportunity to play a little bit smaller at times with Kaya coming back and Kaya being healthy. Natalie Mazurik is a young lady who got some important minutes for us. Allison Popolski played really well in the conference tournament against NDSU. She showed some great signs at that point in time. And then Aspen is someone who is a lot bigger than the rest of the kids. She's got great size and length and is someone who's a lefty, so that always makes it a little bit more challenging for whatever reason. I'm not sure why that is, but from a scouting, it's just different. And so I think we have a good core group of post players that can provide different types of matchups for us.
Coach, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about Kaya. She'd been showing a ton of promise last season before the injury came along. What is sort of the outlook for her? What steps forward do you think she can take this year?
Well, I think Kaya is someone who can can really influence the game in an awful lot of ways. From an athletic standpoint, has the potential to be a great defender, one-on-one lockdown defender. She has the ability to offensive and defensive rebound. She has the ability on the offensive end because she's a very skilled kid to shoot it, to handle it, to get to the rim. So she's someone that we can rely on a great deal in a lot of different ways. And now she's just starting, I think, to get comfortable and figure out what she can all do. And there are a lot of days that we get done and we smile and we look at each other, either as Kaya and myself or Kaya and her teammates or the coaches about Kaya and go, well, that was impressive. Well, that was kind of fun. So she's someone who her best days are still far into her future, but we're starting to see a glimpse of what she's capable of.
Getting back to sort of the freshman theme, I know you said this is a time where everybody's getting acclimated, and it was just so much harder a year ago to sort of get people into the culture that you've built. What gets easier now? I know COVID is still a concern, but what's easier this season about getting those newcomers into the fold?
Well, they had a full summer with us, and that's really important. Last year we didn't have a full summer. We had about a 3.5-week stretch during the preseason where they couldn't work with coaches, we couldn't work with them, so that became pretty challenging for us, and then we had some kids who were out from close contacts and all those type of things. At this point in time, we've been able to be as close to normal as I think hopefully possible, knock on wood. So it's helped us have the consistency of what we need to do. And that certainly is something that is really, really important. And when you try to build that culture, that camaraderie, that chemistry, that find a way mentality. And I think one of the things we talk about tweaking and getting better, what does that mean for us? I think a lot of it means giving the players the ability to, you make the call. You're smart enough, you've been around long enough, you understand it. If you feel like you want to guard it this way, you guys do it, but then you listen to each other and you guys get on the same page and do it. Yeah, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, then adjust the next possession. So giving them more latitude to make those decisions, or offensively even more, I think, ability to play and make different reads without trying to predetermine what those are going to look like is something that time period has helped us grow with.
I know we've mentioned the non-conference schedule a few times and how difficult it can be and how aggressive you can be in scheduling these things. And your players mentioned that sometimes it can be difficult to convince teams to come to Vermilion, especially when they know they're playing a really good basketball team. What challenges come with trying to build a tough non-conference schedule, and how do you overcome those? Well,
I think our staff has done a great job of working together, and certainly Jason kind of takes that head on and really tries to reach out to a great deal of coaches and trying to build that home and home type of conference or non-conference schedule is really important to us. Balancing that with some neutral site games, teams that give us a different style, and we're fortunate that we've been able to find a way to navigate some of that because COVID really kind of messed a lot of that up, because last year our season didn't start. We lost some home games or even close road games because those games weren't played until after we officially started our season. We had some other ones where conferences weren't playing yet when we were supposed to be playing non-conference. Some of those have been bumped back another year. Some have been honored now. Some aren't going to be. So this year presented even more challenges than normal. And so I know Jason probably aged a little bit trying to put together this year's schedule. But you can't tell, you don't see any gray hair.
Last year, you guys finally got to play in the NCAA tournament after it was canceled in 2019. How important was that experience for your team?
Yeah, that was incredibly important. When you look back at the players who have been in that environment before and the ones who have the comfort of knowing what it feels like, what it looks like, what are all the extra things. Now, the extra things were really different last year during the NCAA tournament because there were no extra things. It was like, go, you're locked in your room. Stay there, don't talk to anybody, stay away from people. So it was a lot different in that regard. But that in itself was an extra thing and seemingly a challenge. And so the fact that our players have been in that environment, they know what it looks like, is something that is only going to provide us new opportunities to continue to take that experience and get better with it.
With a more normal offseason this year, have you noticed that the offseason strides have been, bigger than they were last year when players were largely kind of working and improving on their own?
Well, very much so. And I really believe that our staff has done a really good job of taking that time that we have now and using that as our base and staying consistent with it. And last year, because of the we didn't get to start right away. We didn't have a postseason. We didn't have a typical summer. Then the preseason was truncated at the same time. You felt like, oh, we have to be ready. Our first game is against, the number one team in the country. So we better hurry up and we better have some things ready to run. We need to know how we're going to defend different actions. And so we didn't have as much time to focus on what we are typically known for, is really staying true to the fundamentals. We tried to do that, but man, we didn't have as much time. And so this has allowed us the longevity and the base to really continue to build off those things, which I think ultimately gives your players the confidence to know this is what we do, this is who we are, this is what we're going to do.
Is there anyone who stands out as a nice surprise in terms of the way that they've improved over the offseason?
Well, I think there are a lot of young ladies who've really improved that haven't really shown that their time on the court a great deal yet. Last year, Janiyah got a first chance to really play significant minutes. Macy and Reagan are two young ladies who are working really diligently that have moments that you're like, wow, it's starting to really come together for them. Mentioned Allison Popowski. The four returning freshmen are players who are making an awful lot of things happen on a daily basis. It's like, that's a really good move for a freshman. Oh yeah, they're not really freshmen. They're super freshmen. It's kind of fun. And then the seniors mentioned it too. I think Grace Larkins is someone as a true freshman who has come in and who has played with a real fearless mentality.
You talked about the non-conference schedule, obviously, but what about the conference? What's that shaping up like?
Well, I think the conference, like most conferences in most teams, is a very experienced conference. And typically, Todd talked about it, typically teams at this level and at our level, the more experience you can have, the better. And there are a lot of teams in our conference that have an awful lot of experience, either returning from last year's team or kids that they've brought in maybe that have played elsewhere and are able now to be eligible immediately. And so I think our non-conference schedule is kind of a gauntlet, and I think our conference schedule is going to be nothing different than that, nothing short of that. And so we really believe that hopefully we're doing a good enough job of seeing enough different styles and putting ourselves in position at different scenarios. We play some teams that really, really shoot the ball. We play some teams that really take the ball to the basket aggressively in a transition and throw it inside a great deal. We play teams that do a little bit of both. We play teams that are more set play oriented. We play teams that play more zone, all of that in our non-conference. And so, I think we are at that point in time able to go into the conference and say, oh yeah, remember when we did see this before.
And that's probably where the experience pays off.
Oh, it certainly does. It really does. And we can make reference to those type of things, or we can change one little thing and our older kids can pick up on it and say, yeah, that's a little tweak. We can shift this spot over a little bit. And our freshmen are thinking, what's this called again? What are we doing again? What's the name of this drill? What's the name? Where are we at? Which side of the floor? And so it's an awful lot for them right now. But this too shall pass. 13 days, 6 hours, and now probably 5 minutes left before we play.
And you talked a little bit about the super freshmen, as you call them. How have they progressed from last year, where they had a lot of opportunity to play, and then their progression over this offseason as well, preparing for year two?
Well, I think they've done a really good job of recognizing different areas for each of them to continue to improve. And you see each of them, I think, a little bit stronger this year. You see each of them more confident this year. I think their understanding is a little bit better. And so with all of that, as your skill set develops, your strength develops, your understanding develops, your confidence should do the same thing and continue to climb. Now, it's not, we all want it to be something like this, but it's not. It kind of dips around and looks a lot different than that. But in the end, they're making great progress.
And what can you do, or how do you look to fill the gaps left by Monica and Claudia? Obviously, the numbers doesn't affect the numbers as much, but their impact on the program is still significant. How do you look to try and fill in those gaps? Well,
I think that's a job that multiple players have taken different aspects of it. And I really think Janiyah is someone who is a very vocal leader for us. She may not be up here, but she's someone who understands this is year 3 for her, and she's someone who continues to kind of help and fill that void. I really believe that Allison Popowski and Reagan Sankey are two young ladies who are taking a lot of Monica's servant leadership aspects within our program, maybe in practice, maybe outside of practice, and are doing everything that they can to help make sure that everything comes together. We always say every moment matters. Every little detail builds upon itself. And they're two people in particular who are doing, I think, a fantastic job of making sure that all those little details matter from that leadership standpoint. Macy is someone who, Macy, Alexi, and Aspen, I think, are three young ladies who do a great job of making sure that they're taking care of their teammates. That was something Monica really did a great job of last year, was trying to reach out to her teammates because she could see in a different way what each of them needed, and really found a way to help us with that. And I think there are three young ladies who are really trying to fill that void for us.
And your three, super seniors, Hannah, Liv, and Chloe, were amongst the top 7 or so scorers in the conference last year. How do you look to maybe find a little bit more balance this year in offensive output?
Well, ultimately for us, it's a matter of building versatility and then taking whatever the defense gives us. But the reality is, if we can continue to build versatility and those three can still do what they're doing, that's outstanding for our program, because what we don't want is for those three to not be quite as aggressive so we become more balanced. We want to have those three be really aggressive and smart at the same time and build balance at the same time, with more players having the ability to understand when they can hunt some shots, when they should hunt shots, when their time has come, and what is a good looking opportunity for them.
Who takes over Claudia's height woman for pregame handshakes?
That's a great question. I don't know who that's going to be. I'm not really sure. If I had to... Aaron Horn. That's not a bad option. I was going to say Carly Duffney, because as a freshman, there aren't many freshmen that are going to go up on stage and lip sync, and she just grabbed Grace and made Grace do it with her, because I don't even know if Grace knew what was going on at that point in time, but Grace said, okay, I'll go. Carly Duffney's got a little bit of spitfire to her, which is a lot of fun, a lot of spunk. So if it's not her, then we got to find somebody else, but that's who I nominate. Okay, thank you.